what do we want to achieve? So what we want people to be able to do is do their job with the same access to resources, regardless of their location. We want people to be able to work just as effectively from home as they can in the office, or a combination of the two. In doing so, we want to maintain our security posture. We want to enable flexibility, but we don't want that to come at a detriment to what we're doing as an organization. We want to ensure that we've got control over company devices and data. We want to give people the ability to communicate and collaborate. And then the flexibility will give people the balance between work and life, which is so often sought. So we've got a few key pillars that we can look at in terms of, firstly, how we enable people to work remotely, and secondly, how we keep that secure. So the first one of these pillars is identity. Now, when we're talking about identity, what we're talking about is how people access our systems, how we can know that the people that are accessing our systems are who they say they are. So what we're trying to do with this is we're trying to protect the users, but we're also trying to protect the organization and our data. We want to make sure that these people's accounts are difficult to compromise. We want to be putting steps in place so that no matter where people are, no matter where they're working from, as long as they've got a connection, they can get their work done. But at the same time, we're not allowing just anybody to make use of those connections, so that we can make sure that the person that is coming in and doing the work is not presenting a risk to our organization. We try and do that with a centralized secure identity model. We want to make sure we can verify people's identity at every step of the journey. And then we know that not every system is aligned in the same way. So when we've got a strong central identity, we want to make that the central factor for authenticating against different systems as well, if we can. So if we've got third-party systems and we can use the same identity to access all of them, then that makes us a much stronger organization in terms of security. And then we've also got a part about this, which is behavioral. So do our users know how to protect their account personally? Do they know which steps they need to go through in order to make sure they can verify themselves and understand who they are? And do they also know how to avoid common attacks which could target them, which could lead them to expose credentials? Then we've got our devices. So one of the things which we're well aware of is that people are given corporate devices and we can secure those. People also like to use their own devices for certain things. And that can be, where appropriate, that can be hugely beneficial to the organization. It can also be hugely beneficial to the individual. But what it can mean is that it opens up a bit of a security hole for us. So we want to make sure we're covering off those points. Can we provide native experiences where possible for the user's ease? So what we're talking about there is, can we allow people to do their work natively on their device without having to jump through hoops, to jump through into different networks and different environments, having to have multiple credentials or multiple ways of authenticating against systems, which the more credentials you've got, the more authentication hoops you need to jump through, the weaker the position becomes, because the more difficult it is for those users to access what they need. Can we deploy software as a service or cloud native products to stop us having all of those extra gates to get through in order to access what we need to be working on? So if we can try and keep VPN solutions to a minimum, obviously there will always be uses for them, but if we can try and remove those from our day-to-day work, it gives people less steps to authenticate in order to get their work done. It makes things more streamlined, but it also helps us with our security. We can start to use virtualized end user compute. So within the Microsoft realm, we're talking about Azure Virtual Desktop, we're talking about Windows 365. It could also be Citrix environments. There are other providers of similar technologies. But by doing that, we can maintain a secure virtual environment where we need those resources and people have just got one hop to get to where they need to be. What we are ultimately trying to do is make access easy, but we want to control how those devices are used so that we know that we're not exposing any risk. We've also got data as an additional pillar. So what we're trying to do with data is give access from anywhere, increase people's ability to do their job conveniently. So we want to make sure that people can access what they need to access. If you've got documents that people need to get to, we want to enable that. What we also want to do, though, is protect that data, both at rest and in transit. So we don't want that data to be sat somewhere where it's unencrypted. We don't want that data to be getting sent outside of the organization in ways that we're not aware of. We want to be increasing our governance and compliance. We want to know what we're holding. We want to know that we're protecting that data, and we don't want to be exposing any risk. And what we're also doing is we're removing a reliance on a strong perimeter. This is one of the biggest moves in terms of remote and hybrid working when we're looking at cloud solutions, is that we are no longer protected fully by our network firewalls and our office-based spaces. So we need to make sure that we are moving that security boundary and we are keeping things secure, we are keeping things strong, and we are keeping our access controlled.